So mainly the issue started in the bathroom. I'm going to start with probably the simplest one, but sorry if you haven't had your lunch yet. When I first came, this toilet bowl was actually completely empty, which could be a bit of a flag of some sort of drainage issue. It's also clearly not been kept very clean, which is a separate issue. But what I've done is flushed it once and just seen if it's drained away. So I've been here for about an hour and a half. And it doesn't seem to, so it just looks like it's dried out. But that's put me on guard a little bit, worrying about whether there's any rodent issue in the house, but nothing's jumped out at me. So I'll probably just give it another flush or two and just make sure that holds, but seems to be all right. And really it will just be whether the buyer potentially wants to see if they can give that a clean or just replace it. So the second thing that I've seen is up here. We've got this little patch of mould here, and also a little bit of mould along the ceiling. So this is it's quite a dated bathroom. There's no extractor fan at all. There is an openable window, but as you can see it's quite old. So it's not necessarily causing me any concern because there's no immediate sign of any water ingress. So I would normally take readings if it was a damp and mould survey, but here we can see that it's showing is 18 or thereabouts, so in a potentially damp range. But what I would say is quite often Artex is really good at holding moisture. This property has been empty for about 12 months, so that doesn't help. And what I would recommend is making sure you're getting a reference reading so you've got a better idea. And what I'm going to do is take one from just underneath the loft hatch, where I know there definitely isn't any dampness because I can clearly see above. And you see if I take it there, that's 13 there, so it's higher than what most other homes would be. And even if I test a different material, so maybe this wall, that's 13 there as well. So actually, we talked about this in a previous video, and one thing you can do, I tend not to, I just kind of keep it in my head, is with most of these meters you can set what's going to be your kind of reference reading. So that's now set at that, so that rather than looking at anything over a certain amount being a problem, we're comparing it now with the reference reading. So if I'm back in the bathroom, it's going to tell me that it's actually 6% above my reference reading, which gives me a little bit more context to what I'm going to be seeing. But I'm still going to just go up and check to see what's going on. But it's just worth bearing in mind that if most normal houses are, say, when they're dry, they're 8% relative moisture, then you wouldn't be concerned if it was 6% above that, because that would still be dry. So that's generally how we'd look at it. I still want to investigate what's going on, and I kind of know what I'm going to find. A lot of people won't do this, and I don't blame them, because what we're going to be looking at is up here in the eaves. So this is the wall is roughly here, and I'm just going to follow along. It's almost exactly along this line of the insulation there, and obviously you've got to be super careful going across the loft space, so make sure you're not going through the ceiling. No one's going to be happy about that. But if I can just about get into here so that you can see directly above that area, we can see there's just a little patch of the top of the ceiling that I can see, so I can't see any roofing defects at all in that area. But unlike all these other areas where it's fairly evenly insulated, just at the top we can see there's a whole mix of insulation, but at the back of the other bits there's a bit of the really old brown stuff. So that's that. So the recommendation really will be to make sure that the loft's a bit more evenly insulated, but the reality is anyone going to do that? It's so awkward to get up here, and really just a provision of an extractor fan would probably stop that from happening. So the second issue that I saw up here, which we've started adding to our survey reports as a standard option just because we seem to be seeing it quite a lot. We talked about rodents Luckily it doesn't seem to be anything too big, but taking a look at the cylinder up here, we can see there's a little bit of some sort of rodent activity where they've been chewing the insulation here, and also there's a few little bits elsewhere. We do want to flag that as a risk because, you know, they can start chewing things that you don't want them to be chewing, and if you get on top of it, they can be quite simply treated. And even here you can see, you know, that's what's on the surface. We can see a few droppings, but just in over where I was, we can see there's this little hole in the insulation there, and inside that hole you can actually see that they've been nesting in there. There's quite a lot more droppings down in that area, so they are nesting just underneath there, and you can see they've even managed to find a little peanut shell from somewhere. So just going to flag that, nothing major, but that's the kind of stuff you can see if you follow the trail. We can give something a little bit clearer about what the actual cause is so that people don't panic. I know in the past, sometimes, especially with that damp patch, I'll quite often see, you know, recommendations or reports coming back to say, oh, there must be a roof leak over that area, and you can end up doing a whole load of works. You know, perhaps we'd be renewing the bottom 3 rows of tiles on the assumption that there's a major issue, whereas really just taking a little bit of time to think about it and fixing the most obvious issues, which in the case of this mould particular problem in this bathroom, a little bit of ventilation will be very, very helpful. So I hope you find that useful. Try and get down from here.